What's up, guys? Mason the Rock Henderson here, and let's talk some ATL. Woo! Alright. I've never really got to talk about the last game. Obviously, you probably never saw a video uploaded on my channel. Yeah, it's because I got super busy, and honestly, what happened the night of the final, I was on a show, I was working, and I was trying to avoid anything about the score, and of course, right when I get back in my car, what should pop up but an email from Atlanta saying Cup conquered. And I'm like, I didn't want to know, but at the same time, I'm also excited. It's difficult. But anyway, I got home that morning at like 3 in the morning, and just stayed up and watched the game, and it was fantastic, but obviously I was too tired to do a review, and I had work the next day as well, so I just had no time to do a review on the game, and so never got to talk about it or anything. And of course, I never really got to talk about the season either, so I figured now would be a good time to discuss not only the season overall, but also some of the stuff that's happened since the season ended. So first of all, let's talk about the season, because ultimately, similar to last season, there are ups and downs. There are pros and cons throughout the season. Whereas last season, it was a good first season. We did well. We made it to the playoffs, but ultimately crashing out of the playoffs in the first round, it was kind of a disappointment. This year, I would say winning the MLS Cup is a brilliant. It's great. It's perfect way to end the season. It's exactly what we wanted, but it also does come with the fact that we did drop the Supporters Shield on the last day. I mean, we gave it up. It was ours to be had. There were several points throughout the season where we should have won games that we just dropped points. And you can look back at those games and say, yeah, we really should have done better. But at the same time, you could also look and say, well, we still managed to break the record on points as well as New York Red Bulls. So both of us did well this season. So it's kind of a mixed bag. You know, you can look at it. You look at the bad, look at the good. Overall, though, I think the fact that we went on and won the playoffs, beat both of the New York teams, which is a great feat. You know, something that not a lot of teams were able to do this season. I mean, it was overall a good performance in the playoffs. You know, we faced two very difficult teams, beat them both over two legs, and then faced Portland, and they took it to them. Didn't really give them a chance. It was our game. You know, 1-2-0. So yeah, I mean, all in all, it was a good overall playoff performance. As far as the season is concerned, even though we didn't finish number one overall, it was still a very good season. We had a lot of good performances, stellar performances, a lot of great memorable games and performances throughout the season. So yeah, in the entirety of the season, there are a lot of games, I can't remember any off the top of my head, that just kind of stick out to me as like, yes, that was great. I mean, obviously, beating Orlando is always it's a great time. But, you know, the comeback where we were 2-0 down at, what was that, San Jose, I think? Something like that. But we were 2-0 down, and they came back and won 4-3. I mean, that was a great moment. You know, some of the just absolute routes that we put on show, you know, the 4-0 to 5-0 wins that we had throughout the season, those were incredible. So, yeah, we had a great season. There's not much else I can say about it. As far as Tata is concerned, you know, it was, even though I'm sad to lose him, it was a good season for him to go out on as well, because he really did a good job this year of kind of suiting his style to what the team needed. And I think I talked about this quite a bit throughout the season, but that 4-2-3-1 formation that he prefers to play in didn't really fit what we had this year. You know, we didn't really have a player like Carmona, you know, that could be sort of the gritty kind of distributor that we needed in there. Jeff obviously was still doing his job in the midfield, but with Darlington and Remedy, we had those two that were a bit more of kind of a quick sort of, I guess, busybody in the midfield. They weren't really like getting stuck in like Carmona was last year. So we had to change our formation a little bit. We had to change up how we played. On top of that, we found out this year that Julian Gressel plays a great right wing back, and so that formation suited him when we put him out there. Even, you know, Franco Escobar, when we put him out there at the end of the year, he started playing fantastic. You know, he wasn't really suited to that right side of a back three. But when we put him out there, he did fine. And then obviously Greg Garza, when he was in there, he played a great wing back. Putting Almiron and Martinez up top by themselves was a fantastic choice for the playoffs. So I just thought throughout the season, he found moments to pick and choose when to switch the formation, pick and choose when to play certain players in different positions. That kind of helped us out. Obviously, there were a few games where I thought he got his tactics wrong, but most of the time it was spot on. But that 3-4-3 formation really suited us this year, and I do hope, with the new coach coming in, I hope he kind of sees that and will suit his style, kind of change his style to what we need as a team. Because that's really what Martino did. He came in as a coach, he had a style that he did want to play, and ultimately we did play his type of football. But when it came to the formation, when it came to kind of how we, I guess, formed our defense, that was something that he had to change as the season went along and kind of changed it to suit different types of games. And I thought he did that very masterfully. As far as players are concerned, I'm only really going to talk about the players that were outstanding and the players that were a little bit less than stellar. So first of all, the less than stellar players this year. One that kind of stands out to me definitely has to be Ezequiel Barco, and not because, he didn't have some good games, but I just think he never really showed what he was capable of. I think he has a lot more potential than what he showed this season. And I'm not saying that he can't ever get there. I'm not saying that, this season shows that he's done. He's never going to reach those heights. Not at all. I mean, he's still young. He's still got a lot of room to grow. But I do think that he never really tried to change depending on, what the team needed from him. We see a lot of these players, whether it's Almiron, whether it's Martinez, whether it's Tito, whether it's, even some of the defenders, Parkhurst, Perez. Some of these players have to change how they play to suit what the team needs. They have to be a little bit more defensive, or they have to be a little bit more aggressive, or they have to drop a bit deeper, or they have to be a bit more of a leader. Some of these players learned how to do that, and they did it very well. Barco never changed. He sort of stayed the same player throughout the season. He tried to dribble too much. He tried to, instead of counterattacking very quickly like we did all season, whenever he came on and he got the ball, it wasn't as quick of a counterattack. Now he sort of slows it down, and now he's taking a touch and bringing it back around, and all of a sudden they've got numbers behind the ball. And that's not really what we needed from him. We needed him to be a bit more aggressive going forward and a bit more single-minded running down the field. So I'm a little disappointed that he didn't try, or he didn't really learn from that. He didn't grow into the team. But overall, it wasn't a terrible season. It just wasn't as good as I think he could have been this year. Another one that kind of stood out to me is not as effective that I think he could have been is McCann. And that's just mainly because I do think he played out of position a little bit. I don't think he's a left wing back. I think he really was suited more to a back three, playing as one of those three defenders. So I'm not really going to say it's his fault that he didn't do well at the left wing back position. Left fullback, he did okay, still not great, but he was definitely one of our weak links whenever he was on the field. He just wasn't as effective. He wasn't really there when we needed him to be. He wasn't on top of his game at the right moments. So just a little disappointing, but again, not something that I think he could have helped. And then the final one I think would just be considered not a good season. I'm going to go with Romario Williams, and that's just because he never really took advantage of the chances that he was given. Because we did give him some chances throughout the season. Obviously, with Joseph Martinez in, he's not going to get a whole lot of time, and we know that. And I think he knows that. He's not going to upseat the MLS, goal. What's what I'm looking for? He scored the most goals in a season. The record breaker, of course. So I think he knows that he's not really going to be able to upseat him for the starting position. But there is an argument to be made that whenever we needed something else, whenever we needed another striker up there, or whenever Joseph was getting tired, or maybe his attitude wasn't right, we need another striker to sort of push him to get his attitude right, to get his work rate back. But Romario never really did. He came on, he had like one or two decent games, but overall he never really challenged him for the spot. He never showed him why he needs to be better. All it did was show Joseph, no, you need to get your act together because we don't have another option. So it was more of a, you've got to get better to help the team type of thing. And I don't know, I just find that disappointing because Romario seemed like he'd be a good player. He seemed like he'd be a player that could step up this season and maybe, grow into the league a little bit as the season went on. But it felt like as the games wore on, teams kind of figured him out, and he never really got involved after that. He was just sort of, every time he was out there, he was kind of a cone. He didn't really give us much. So I would say that's pretty disappointing from his standards. As far as that is concerned, those are really the only three that stood out to me as it really could have been better. It should have, they could have stepped their game up a bit more. Most of the other players were either average or kind of what I expected. Players like, you know, I'm trying to think of some that kind of stood out to me as kind of what I expect. I'll say, players like Garza, kind of what I expected. He played well, he was on the field. Sometimes he was a little too much. Out most of the season with an injury. That's kind of why we sold him, but I'll talk about that later. Woo! Still coming down off of a cold, so excuse that. Franco Escobar, another one, kind of what you'd expect. Gressel, kind of what you'd expect. Tito, Kratz. I'd say even Nagby, obviously a lot of his season was hindered with injuries, but it's kind of what you'd expect from him. I will say I was glad to see him get to show what he can do in the midfield this season, but yeah, he did his job well enough. He didn't really do anything spectacular, but there were a lot of games where he helped us, so that was good. It's about, all the ones I can think of. As far as our outstanding players of the season, though, I mean, there are a lot of players that deserve that honor. Joseph obviously broke the record on MLS goals in a season, broke the hat-trick record. He went around just breaking all these records, and it was fantastic. And he really showed how good our first season could have been if he wasn't out with that injury for, I don't even remember how long it was, but it was for a couple months, I think. If we had him all season, I feel like it would have been a much better season. It would have been a lot more effective for us. Almiron, obviously, still one of the best players in the league. Going to be very frustrated if we aren't able to hold on to him. But of course, all these teams are going to come looking for him, so there's a good chance he's probably going to move on. I'll talk about the transfer stuff closer to the end. Parkhurst, obviously, probably one of the best defenders in the league. Very good captain-wise, very good leadership, defensive skills. I mean, all around the board, he's a very smart player. So loved getting to watch him work, and I really hope he continues to play at this level at least for a couple more years. Perez started off the season, obviously, first couple games were really rough to watch him, but as the season went on, I mean, he grew as a player. He grew not only in his intelligence and defending, but also just as a leader. You could see him start to grow a lot more. He still had those hot-headed moments where he'd pop off at the referee or something. But for the most part, I mean, he really kept his cool. He managed to be one of our best defenders back there. And he and Parkhurst formed a partnership that was so solid all season long. And it just really showed how defense can win you a game. The games whenever we managed to shut teams out for pretty much most of the game and rarely let them have a chance. It was fantastic to watch. And a lot of that came down to the two of them working together, really just forming a barrier back there and not letting teams have an opportunity, even when there were dangerous moments. Guzan was another big part of that as well. I thought, beyond the fact that he's a good keeper, you can see the moments whenever mistakes were made or whenever somebody does something that you need to step that up. You need to make a better decision. You need to force them wide. You need to make sure they don't have the time and space to play. Guzan most of the time is going and telling them that. He's making sure they know. Perez, when he was making the mistakes at the beginning of the season, you could see Guzan stepping in and telling him that. And that's something that I think when we brought him in, beyond the fact that Can was a little bit shaky, Guzan not only brought a better keeper ability, but he also brought more leadership back there. And it showed this season. Like I said, defensively, we were very solid throughout the season. Jeff Larinowitz, another big part of the defense, started out more in the midfield at the beginning of the season, just like last season. But as the season went on, we saw him drop into more of that back three that Tata was favoring near the end of the season, and honestly did a good job. It wasn't, I think, our best option back there. I still think he is best in the midfield when he's just breaking up play, he's stopping counterattacks. But I think he did well enough back in the defense that it really showed what a good defense can look like. If you have three players back there that know what they're doing, that communicate well, that keep each other from getting pushed too far and high up the field, it can really keep everything organized. It can keep everything from midfield on organized because they're doing their job and they're making sure the people in front of them do their job as well. So I loved having that back line. It was great to watch throughout the season. And then a player that I think kind of went under the radar for most of the season, but in the playoffs really stepped up, and I think deserves some praise. Got to go to Eric Remedi. Just a player that I didn't really think about most of the season. He came in, he did well enough. He was no Carlos Carmona. He wasn't really gritty, and he wasn't getting stuck in like Carmona did. He wasn't really like all around the field like Carmona was some games. But as the season wore on, I mean, he really started to get into that role a bit more. He started to pop up all over the field. He started to be a good distributor. He started to be good on the ball. He started to actually affect the play in the midfield. And by the playoffs, I mean, he was probably one of our best players. I mean, he kept Maxi Morales from doing anything throughout the game in New York City. I mean, he shut down New York's midfield, which is quite a feat. Against Portland, I don't even remember, who was it, Valeri, I think. I don't even remember Valeri being involved, and a lot of it was down to the fact that anytime he got near the ball, there's Remedi, and he's putting in a challenge on him. So, just a player that really impressed me, especially in playoffs. But I think it was that playoff performance that kind of showed he had been doing this throughout most of the season quietly, but when playoffs hit, he just stepped it up. He became so much more effective. He became a much more noticeable, effective player. It was definitely a good pickup. It was probably the best transfer we made into this season. So, with all that being said, obviously, try to do a little bit talking about like the best in each position. I mean, obviously, for keeper, we really only had one throughout the season, so it's got to go to Guzan. But for defense, it's kind of a toss-up, between Parkhurst and Perez. Both of them have their good qualities. Both of them have their downfalls as well at times. Definitely more good qualities than bad, but I think I'm going to have to give it just to Parkhurst. Beyond the fact that he's the captain, I got to give it to him because he is definitely the smarter of the defenders. He's definitely the one that reads the game better. He's the one that, if there is a mistake made, he's going to be the one to cover it. He's the anchor back there. He's the one that's making sure the other defenders are doing their jobs, and you can see that a lot of the time. You can see whenever something is happening, he's always reading that. He's always ready to be there to cover if needed. So I'd give him best defender. Best midfielder, that one's a little bit tougher. Between Remedi and Nagbe, I think probably be the two I'd have to do a little bit of a toss-up for. But I think just based on the playoff performance as well, I'm going to give it to Remedi. I think he did enough throughout the season. I think he did a lot, especially in the playoffs, to really earn that best midfielder position. I think he really showed out when we needed him to, and that's something to be mentioned. So, and then the best attacker, I mean, choosing between Almiron and Martinez is a very difficult thing to do, but just because of all the records that were being broken, I've got to give it to Martinez. He really showed out this season, really showed what we were missing last season when he was injured, and I really hope we managed to keep a hold of him because he said that he loves it here. He says he loves playing for Atlanta, so I'd love to keep him around for a few more seasons, break his record again, break the all-time MLS scoring record. That would be fantastic. So, yeah, with all that being said, now let's look to the future a little bit because obviously with this year coming up, no more Tata Martino. We got Frank de Boer coming in. Was he the Netherlands coach? I think he was the Netherlands coach at one point. But yeah, player, coach now, been around the game for a long time. A little bit of a mixed bag there because one, he does come in with a lot of experience. He has been around this, playing, coaching, managing, and all of that. So he does have experience, which is good. A little bit of the concern is the fact that we're bringing in a European coach to a team that right now is predominantly kind of that South American style of play. I don't know if that's going to fit. I don't know if he's going to be able to work with these players that are going to be playing a different style than what he's used to. And that's kind of what I was saying earlier. Is he going to be able to come in and is he going to change to what the team needs, or is he going to try to change the team to what he wants? And that's kind of where I don't know what to expect yet. I don't know what type of coach he is. I don't know if he's going to be kind of like stubborn. I'm a Chelsea fan, kind of like Sarri wants to play his way, and that's how it's going to be. And even though it doesn't necessarily fit some of the players, that's how he's going to try to play. Is De Boer going to come in and do the same thing with Atlanta, where, oh, well, these players aren't really my style, but we're going to play like my style. We're going to try to fit what I want to play. I kind of hope not. I hope he sticks to what we've got going here. I hope he sticks to really what won us the league this year, which was a lot of very high intensity, fast play, good counterattack, the quick movement off the ball. I mean, it's what we need. It's what we have here, and it's what we need to do. So I really hope he can take that and work with it. And then you also got to look at some of the transfers happening. Obviously, only 2 have happened so far. I know some of the players left. I don't really know all of those players off the top of my head, but I do know the big one obviously going out is Greg Garza moves to FC Cincinnati. New MLS team coming in, and they managed to pick him up. Again, kind of a mixed bag, because when he was healthy and when he was playing well, I mean, Greg's a great player. But at the same time, that kind of stipulation, when he was healthy, he wasn't healthy a whole lot, and it showed. It really did hinder us whenever he wasn't available. So kind of getting rid of an injury problem, but also losing a very solid player. So not really sure how I feel about it yet. I guess we'll see whenever FC Cincinnati gets going. If he helps them have a great start and play well against us, then we'll regret selling him. But if we can manage to kind of replace that position, then we could say, all right, well, we did a good job of making a good deal there. And then, of course, the other transfer that happened was we brought in Breck Shea on a free transfer. This is one that whenever I heard the rumors, I was like, Breck Shea, right? Yeah, we're totally going to bring in Breck Shea. Like, we need Breck Shea. And then it happened. I was like, oh, I didn't know that was a real thing. Yeah, I'm not the biggest Breck Shea fan. He was a player that was on the national team. He was in Europe for a while and just never really panned out as a player. And ultimately, I don't know. Of all the players that we could be bringing in, I get he's on a free transfer, but Breck Shea, really? Who knows? Maybe he's just going to be like the water boy or something, or maybe he's going to be the ball cleaner. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I just hope we didn't go grab some guy that's just like, oh, he's a name. People know him, so let's go get him. It just seems like a wasted transfer, a wasted spot on the team, in my opinion. But as far as the rest of the transfers are concerned, one of the ones that keeps getting talked about, like I said, is Almiron possibly leaving. It hasn't happened yet. Still don't know if it's going to happen like in January or if it's going to happen in the summer when everybody else's main transfer window opens. But there is a lot of talk that it is going to happen sometime soon. There's also still a lot of talk that Pity Martinez is coming to us. Obviously, that hasn't materialized yet, but it does sort of feel like a lot of people are saying if Almiron leaves, Martinez will be his replacement. So we'll see what happens. Not really sure. There's still a lot of rumors flying around about who's going to go where, if Almiron's leaving, if he's staying. So we'll just have to wait and see, but I hope Martinez can fill Almiron's shoes because he is a player that is very valuable to us. He is a player that makes a lot of things tick and makes the midfield work. So we really got to make sure that we get a player that's going to take that position well. And then, of course, as far as the left fullback position or wingback, whatever we're playing next year, we do have options there, which is good. Mikey Ambrose is a player that's done decently enough that he can fill the spot for now. George Bello obviously stepped in very well as a young player. I thought he played pretty well as a left wingback, so it's a good position for him, I think, to play. And then we also picked up that Jose Hernandez guy that never really featured this season except for like one game, subbed out for Bello. So, I don't know. I'm not really sure what to expect from him, but we do have options there, which is good. We're not just getting rid of Garza, and then it's like, oh, now we don't have a left back. But I am curious to see what is our transfer window going to look like. What are we going to try to get this January? Is there going to be something that just blows our minds as far as, oh, we got that guy? Really? That's awesome. He's really going to help us. Or is it just going to be kind of a mild, oh, we sold Almiron, brought in PD, and then that's it. And then we also sold Garza. So, yeah, going into the new season, though, obviously we want to try to step up. We want to improve even further, which means, try to get the Open Cup. Obviously, we're going to be in the CONCACAF Champions League, which is big. We're going to try to go win the Supporter Shield this year. We got to try to keep a hold of the MLS Cup. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to look forward to. New coach, couple new players, couple players leaving. It's going to be a different style. It's going to be a different team. It's going to be a lot of different stuff. So let's hope that at least after all of this, we come back with the same fire we have. We come back with the same fan base, the same all of it, because that's the big thing is we just need to make sure this club keeps the magic of what made Atlanta United so great, and that is just we are a big club. We are a big fan base, team, family, coaching staff, players. All of it just comes together and makes what Atlanta United is so great about. So yeah, I've enjoyed this season. I hope you guys did too, and I'll probably do a couple more videos before the season, just kind of a preview, a couple things that happened, transfer wise and all of that. Just towards discussing that. So yeah, let me know what you guys think though about the season in general. Let me know what you talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Atlanta United reviews, and I'll see you guys next season. Peace out.